All right, so we're here at the mining investment event, and interesting Latin Metals. Here's an interesting concept: is a prospect generator. And what it really does is that it identifies gold and copper properties in South America, and then gets funders to come on board. Well, it's a pleasure to welcome the company's CEO, Keith Henderson. Keith, thanks very much indeed for your time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
All right, so I hope I got the synopsis of, or the first line synopsis of what the company really does. Is that essentially it?
That's essentially it. It leads to completely different outcomes for shareholders. The usual model we're used to watching time and time again with exploration companies is that they grab a property, they raise some money, $3, $4, $5 million, off they go and spend it. And of course, it's a pretty high risk industry, so failure is uncommon. It is common, but it's not a negative thing. It's just kind of the way the industry is, and it's the nature of what we're doing. But what that means is that company just keeps on financing. And so for the early investor, you tend to get punished later by lots of dilution. If you invest early in a prospect generator, you get rewarded because you're in at the right level early on, but you're not going to see that same level of dilution. And you're going to see partners and investing companies coming in and spending all the high risk dollars, paying for all the drilling. And so we're diluting at the asset level rather than diluting the shareholders at the shareholder level.
Yeah, and that was my next question about what you're actually doing with the shareholder there, but I think that answers it. Let's talk about what you're doing exactly in South America.
Well, it's been a kind of a 5-year process for us. To operate in this way takes a little bit of patience, both on our parts and on the parts of the shareholders. And you have to explain very carefully to the people who are investing at the beginning, hey, this is going to take a couple of years because you've got to go and find the right projects. And that's really what our skill set is. Like, we have the ability to go and find projects that ultimately will be of interest to major mining companies. And that's actually not an especially easy thing to do. So once we find those projects, we do whatever work we need to do to get to drill target stage. If we can do it, we actually get a drill permit because that also makes the projects really attractive to bigger companies. And then we either go to companies and propose that they invest in the projects, or actually in a lot of cases, they end up coming to us. And so we just end up with projects where other people are spending the money. We have to keep our pipeline very full. So we're always looking for new projects, and that's our main function in the world. It's just to keep finding new projects, keep putting them into the pipeline. And then as we option things out, we've got more things coming.
It's an interesting concept. Let me ask you, I see names here like AngloGold Ashanti and Moxico. What are they doing in the mix?
Well, it's a good question. And it's AngloGold Ashanti are, I don't know, 4th biggest mining company in the world on the gold space. Maybe 5th, I don't know. But they're a big company. They've got very, very high hurdle rates. And what I mean by that is when they go to their board to look for a budget, they have to justify it, and they have to justify it and say, look, here's the target where we think we've got potential to discover 5 million ounces or more. And if they can't sit down and say that, they're not going to get the budget, and they're not going to be allowed to come and make the agreement. So what does that mean for Latin Metal shareholders? Well, a Latin Metal shareholder, a non-technical guy, a non-geologist, someone who just wants to invest in the mining space. You look at every company in Vancouver, apparently they've all got the best projects in the world. So how do you discriminate between those companies? Well, if AngloGold have taken a look at my project, they've been on the ground, they've looked at all my data, and they've said to themselves, yes, there's potential here. It's still high risk, it's still exploration, but the potential is there in their mind. And so that's due diligence that an investor can take almost as a proxy for the thinking that they would have had to done. And I think people invest just on that basis. Here's AngloGold, they're looking, this must be really interesting. And it kind of carries through to Moxico as well. Moxico are a less well-known company simply because they're a private company, and people don't know who they are, but they're a copper producing company producing out of the copper belt in Zambia. They've got projects in Saudi Arabia, and they're also now moving into Argentina in quite a big way. And so they're on our project doing fabulous work. We tend to focus, when we look for partners, we tend to focus on companies that we think bring real technical expertise. Like, you can take a group of geologists and point them at your project, but you're not going to be successful unless they're pretty smart people and they know what they're doing. And in the case of AngloGold made a lot of discoveries in Colombia in the early 2000s in a certain type of deposit. They've come to our Organismo project in Argentina, and they see the same rocks, they see the same kinds of things, which they consider to be somewhat proprietary knowledge on their part because they have actually been there and discovered these things. So that's what generates their interest, and they go, okay, we're in. And so that's exciting for us. That's going to be us just finishing off a permitting process. It's going to be drilling this year. Moxico also working on permitting, also planning to be drilling this year. And then we've got a third project that is permitted and which we're just finalizing arrangements for a partner to come in. So we're looking at something in the order of $19 million of exploration being paid for by our partners, contrasting with the $1 million that we raised to finance ourselves through the year. We spend very little money, and that's really the reason why we don't dilute shareholders. We don't need to.
Okay. As I wrap up very quickly, copper properties and copper mines aren't easy to come by these days, so you've got to search for them. Just talk to me about that space that you're in. I mean, what do you think about copper, firstly, going forward? And what was it difficult to sort of pinpoint that?
Copper's great. We decided in 2019 when we started to focus on gold and copper, essentially because they're two commodities that we understand. We understand the kinds of cycles they go through. We don't get surprised too often by those commodities. They tend to do what you expect. The copper space has delivered in spades, and it's really been good for us. We have a copper project that Mashiko have optioned out where we made a discovery prior to becoming a prospect generator, we actually drilled this project. We are 387 meters at 0.57% copper and 0.27 grams gold. And interestingly, in 2018, that was the third best copper intersection in the entire world. Companies like SNL actually record this stuff, and utterly amazing. At the time, copper was sort of in the toilet. It didn't do us a lot of good, but it's led to us getting excellent partners like Mashiko who look at this discovery hole and go, okay, in this environment with copper doing what it's doing right now, we can do wonderful things with this project.
Oh, got you. Well, Keith Henderson, CEO of Black & Metals, thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you very much.